1, 2.
Hey, Lynz, what are you listening to?
Brian, you share yours and I'll share mine.
With millions of podcasts, how do you choose?
We are here to help you find that next bingeable podcast.
Or that piece of content you'll follow regularly.
You're listening to Feed Drops.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Feed Drops. My name is Brian, and I am joined by Lynz as usual. Lynz, how you doing today?
I am doing great, Brian. It is great to be here recording another episode of Feed Drops.
So the way this works, if you're new, first off, if you're new, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us. We hope you can discover a new show. And, if you do, go over there, follow, subscribe, like, share, let them know you heard about them on Feed Drops. Greatly appreciate that. There will be links in the show notes to the full Feed Drop that releases on Just the Drops podcast, which is the sister show to this. So you can find that there. And or, just hang out long enough. They'll all be public and it'll be everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We got it, TikTok.
Yeah, we just got the TikTok set up. And so find us wherever you find things. You don't have to hit us everywhere, but we're wherever you are. And so definitely tune in to what we're doing and, give us a comment. Let us know you like the show or you learned about a podcast you liked. That would really warm our hearts.
And no, you have to hit us everywhere. If you don't, you're in Lynz's camp. If you follow us on every single platform we're on, then I'll know you're in my camp.
That's called pulling a Brian. Pulling a Brian is it's the full circle of follow on all the social
everywhere.
medias. Yep.
Everywhere. Just kidding. We appreciate you following us wherever you choose to. I know I have my favorite platforms that I engage on more so than others, as I'm sure you do. So today, Lynz, what do you have for us?
Once Upon a Wasteland is a podcast that is a fan fiction about the world of the Fallout video game. And Fallout is a post-apocalyptic role-playing game. There's a lot of them. The fact that I'm even explaining it feels a little condescending because I know so many gamers who know about the game and all those worlds. But I also know that there's a lot of people who just do not tune in and have no idea. This is the first episode of the show. And so there's a little bit of exposition, kind of getting to know the world and who the characters are. But, it's a love story with a war background. And, I think I haven't listened to a lot of those in the podcasting space, and I was excited to give it a try.
Here we go with clip number
Wait,
1.
hold, pause.
Oh.
We are actually going to hear first about your show and then take a little break.
Okay. Stickler for the rules today.
Stickler for the rules.
I have for you Holidays After Dark. As I explained in the pre-show, the title caught my attention. So I took a look at the episode that was recommended. And I went, National Goth Day? Okay, I'm intrigued because to me, goth are those people that dressed in all black and black makeup and fingernails. And I took this as an opportunity to hopefully learn more about this goth culture, in which I did. And if you don't know much about it, I think you're going to learn a little bit about it, as I did. And I had a good time listening to this episode. So right after this quick break, we're going to get into these two shows. Thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate that. Lynz, are you ready for clip number 1?
Yes, I just want to say that both of these clips just start to set up the main love story. This first clip is when two characters meet for the first time. And I gave you a little bit of a length here so that we can kind of, sit with the humor, the sense of humor and pacing of the show as well. So enjoy.
That should hold them for a while. Well, as long as they don't figure out how to use that terminal.
I grabbed the holotape. We're good. Thank you, by the way. Oh, Scribe Odessa Valdez, Brotherhood of Steel.
Elizabeth Kirby, the unaffiliated? It's a pleasure to finally meet you in the flesh, Scribe Valdez. I've heard a lot about you.
You have?
Valdez, this is not the... Look, let's cut the chit-chat, okay? What are you doing here, civilian? Other than interfering with an official Brotherhood operation, that is.
I literally just said my name, Night Mood Killer. And my interference saved your asses.
Thank you for that, Miss Kirby. Night Banks is just a little on edge.
I get it. Combat tends to have that effect on people. And call me Beth, please.
Okay, Beth. What are you doing here? And where did you get that holotape?
Can I call you Beth?
Call me Beth. So so we're hearing two characters, meet for the first time, and there's a little bit of romantic interest. There's some kind of interest going on right from the get-go.
Back in the day, I grew up in a very strict home, and it was my bedtime at whatever o'clock. And I had a little, I was getting ready to say transistor radio. Damn, I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little radio that I'd put under the covers before I had ear headphones. And I would turn on old audio dramas, Lone Ranger, and I think Nancy Drew is one. And I would listen to these stories until I fell asleep and or my mom came in to beat me. But honestly, I haven't listened to an audio drama since. And this really piques my interest to even look at the audio drama category and see what's out there, because they are entertaining and it is audio, in which I love.
Yeah, it's a sense. I have a new client that we are working on. We're working on fiction projects. We're still in the scripting phase, but I have to start thinking about sound effects and the pacing and all these things that are different than an interview show or a regular kind of business program kind of thing that I produce often. And so, it's nice. This now feels like I'm doing a little research for that, hearing what this Fallout story, it's a war story like the one I'm going to be producing, although mine is in the past. But it was interesting to hear. You can kind of hear the gunshots in the background. There's some sound effects to kind of to set it in a place. And, there's a little bit of snarky, witty dialogue in there in the mix. And it's pretty fun.
It was good. I can't wait for clip 2.
Yeah, I think this one really starts to show you sort of maybe the perspective that these two main characters have. And I won't blather on. We will play the clip.
Blather. There's another new word I need to look up. Here we go.
Oh, about something you said back there. You said that you'd heard a lot about me. Did you mean that you heard a lot about the Brotherhood and my name happened to come up, or...
Oh, no. It was about you specifically. There's a lot of chatter about the Brotherhood, too. And about Paladin Romani and Night Shin. But you come up so much that it really piqued my curiosity. I started to wonder if you were mythical.
Oh, that's concerning.
I didn't really think you were mythical.
I mean that people are talking about me individually. What kinds of things are they saying?
Mostly that they tried to pick you up. And failed.
Oh, seriously?
It sounds like it happens a lot.
It's like I was the first woman they'd ever seen. And the lines they use are the worst.
I can imagine.
Even in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, no, these dudes have no game.
None.
And you know what happens when dudes have no game? A confident lady can come in and just sweep right up. So that's, I think, what we're learning about here is this love story between these two characters. And, I noticed the person we corresponded with seemed to have a man's name. And so it's interesting to write, I always wonder how well a man can write two women in love, But there seems to be some awareness, like it doesn't, it plays, and I feel like real people could be, that there's some depth to them, right?
it's, again, interesting enough to make me want to hit audio drama and see what's up.
Mm-hmm. And so I think, if you're a video gamer and you really like delving into the world, a fiction thing built in the world where you already play your video game, this is obviously a great thing. I think they're in the second season now, and this is the first episode from the first season. So, when you listen in Just the Drops, you'll be hearing the whole first episode and kind of getting the whole primer on this series. And then, take a check into the creators of their work and check it out.
It sounds interesting indeed. Before we move on to Holidays After Dark, we're going to take another quick break. All right, we have for you Holidays After Dark. This show is hosted by Kristin Seering. Year-round podcast that explores the strange, unusual, and dark sides of the holidays, while also paying tribute to the lighthearted festivities we all know and love. So, again, the main thing that piqued my interest in choosing this show was the fact that she did a episode on World Goth Day. I think I said national earlier. It is World Goth Day.
Much bigger than national.
Much, much, much bigger than. But yeah, how many countries have goths?
A handful at least.
I would hope.
So a trench coat full.
Other than knowing that it's those people that dress in black, I was genuinely intrigued enough to do some Googling. And we are not talking about the Germanic people that helped overthrow Rome. That was the first result. The second result was actually to a Wikipedia page talking about the Goth culture. And I found a link to a playlist of Goth music. And I pushed play while I was working on show notes and doing some other things. And I found myself singing along to some of these songs. And I'm like, that was goth? Okay. And it's like Susie and the Banshees, The Cure. There were bands I knew, and I never attributed it to goth, which I found strange. And the last of 3 clips, she actually talks about this. So before I banter on, let's listen to clip number 1. And this is Holidays After Dark, World Goth Day.
Just like many other girls, I was born to normal, non-goth parents in a small Illinois farm town. For most of my childhood, I was into things like sports, playing outdoors, caring for frogs and bugs, horseback riding, and figure skating. I wore all colors of the rainbow and raced home after school every day to watch my favorite shows and play my Nintendo 64. Then middle school came along. I'm an identical twin, and while we have always been close and have always gotten along extremely well, my theory is that middle school Kristin subconsciously felt like I needed to forge my own identity, separate from my sister. I didn't actively seek out a goth or alternative style. It just sort of fell into my lap in a sense, and I was hooked from day one.
Hooked from day one. One advantage I can see is, do I wear the black shirt or the black shirt?
Well, I think it simplifies things, right? Well, and I think too, how our identities are formed at those early ages, it's like there's a lot of chance involved. Like you happen to hear a certain album when you were 12 and then you happen to meet somebody right after that who dressed in overalls, and suddenly you like overalls for a year and a half. These that was entirely made up, but something like that can happen. And when you're a teenager, you can follow those sort of rabbit holes on a whim, and clearly, especially when you have to differentiate yourself from a twin, that is bold. I wonder, was the other twin in like Abercrombie or like Gap clothes? I'm aging myself maybe on those, but whatever. Like, are they in preppy clothes? And so there's like, it's a really obvious transition, or was she like a skater? What was I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, especially when you factor in that twin dynamic, and wanting your own identity, because I'm sure like every other parents of twins, they were dressing them alike and, the whole 9 yards, and wanting your own identity. I can completely understand that. So interesting. On to clip number 2.
Throughout my life, I have faced outright judgment from some individuals, especially authority figures, about the way I dress or the things I'm interested in. I remember getting glares from a few college professors on the first day of class, who probably assumed I was going to be the problem student who wasn't going to participate in class. Or maybe they just didn't understand me and my appearance in general, compared to most other students. I was straight up told by an internship supervisor that he would never hire me because of my tattoos. I've been questioned in background investigations about my love for the occult and alternative belief systems. But all of these situations had one thing in common. Once those individuals got to know me, their predetermined thoughts or beliefs were shattered. Many of them told me this. They saw that I was a great student, a hard worker, and someone who loves making conversation about all sorts of topics. I've sort of made it my mission over the years to hopefully change a few people's minds about what goth means to them.
And this episode has changed my mind about what goth is and means to me.
Tell me more, Brian. What does it bring up for you?
A lot of the music that was in this goth playlist, and I could be mistaken. This person who put this playlist together might think this is goth and it's not. So
sure.
I could be wrong. However, I think I referenced on an earlier episode, the first concert I ever went to was a Cure concert, and there was Cure all through this playlist. And, again, we tend to judge books by their covers, especially when you were younger and a little immature. And I most certainly did. And I'm just, maybe it is my age, my maturity, if my wife will argue that. But I like seeking out those that are different and learning more. And this makes me want to go find some goth people and just talk.
Yeah, no, it really takes me. I have some friends who are goth. I don't read as goth. I don't represent as goth on the outside, but I spend a lot of time. I was, a real sad kid as a teenager, and I sought out and found the company of people who were also into dark and heavy things. And often they were goth. I had goth friends. And so I would say I was goth adjacent. But when I moved to Los Angeles and I made some friends, one of them is a DJ at a bar called Bar Sinister in Hollywood. And shout out to DJ John C. out there, who is a great DJ of goth and adjacent type music. And he invited me out and he introduced me to everyone, and everyone was so welcoming. There was, the image might have been one of being closed off and of being stoic and of being, maybe, very, stoic perhaps. But once you got to talking to people, their genuine kindness and their genuine warmth always shone through. And I remember continually going back to hang out with those people because it was sort of the most genuine group of people I'd met in Los Angeles.
And not that this is legitimate, I guess the biggest exposure I had to goth was watching NCIS, because Abby Shuto, the young lady in the lab, she was goth-ish, I guess.
Yeah, I think she certainly dabbled.
Yeah. She slept in a coffin at her home.
Yeah, no, I think it was sort of the most theatrical version of goth you could sort of put in TV weekly.
Yeah, but again, this episode's opened my mind up and broken down some of those walls that I personally built. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not going to put that blame on anybody else. However, I think this last clip is going to tie my feelings after listening to this episode together. So here we go.
So at this point, if you aren't someone who already identifies as goth, you may be wondering if you yourself have any goth tendencies or desires hidden somewhere in your soul. Some general signs that you may have a proclivity toward the dark side include a preference for black or dark clothing, a dramatic use of cosmetics such as dark eyeliner or lipstick, a tendency to decorate with things such as skulls and bats, even if it isn't around Halloween time, a general interest in all things morbid, an intense love for Halloween, a fondness for books and movies which include vampires, witches, or monsters, and a strong liking of corsets, top hats, fishnets, and lace.
I don't own any of those clothing items. And again, I guess my closest relationship to this was the music in which I grew up on.
Did any of the people at those shows back in the day, did this aesthetic, were there people around at this aesthetic, or do you think that sort of materialized a little later?
Dude, I was 16. It was my first concert, and I remember being there. That's about it.
Fair enough.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
But, the day before the concert, I went up to a local beauty shop and dyed my hair white because I wanted to fit in a little bit more. And my mother drugged me by the arm back up there, yelled at the lady for doing it, which, I paid for. It wasn't her fault. It was mine.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she even asked, are your parents okay with this? I'm like, yeah. So maybe that conflict with authority, a little gothish there.
Yeah.
But you don't know. I mean, music is, I don't want to say music sticks with you, and the music you grew up on, and songs come on and it takes you back to a place, a time, a smell, a person. And a lot of the songs that I listened to just the other day in this playlist, it brought me back to my younger years, and it was kind of cool. And again, I thought it was more new wave-ish than goth, but again, no complaints, man. I am much more eyes wide open when it comes to this goth culture now.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if my nails are going to go black anytime soon. However, I'm probably not going to be as judgmental as I once was.
Yeah. I have there's a 15-year-old inside of me who is still, listening to Nine Inch Nails on repeat with black fingernails, kind of like feeling like nobody understands me, And so I think as long as I live, there's a little bit of that guy in there. He doesn't run the show anymore, thank goodness. But I can, sometimes I feel him knocking at the door.
Yeah, so to wrap this up, if you liked the snippets, the clips that you heard, check out Holidays After Dark. She does have a website. It is holidaysafterdark.com. And, her show is a podcast. You can find it on any of your favorite podcast players. And I'm actually excited to hear her Halloween episode now because there's even that much more of a connection for her personally. But, dude, I want to hear what crazy things she has to say about Santa Claus.
Yeah. And so, her perspective is great. And she's got, obviously she has issues with authority too. And she handles them with grace. Like she obviously converts people into loving her. So what a cool story. And
what a great storyteller. She obviously puts time into writing what she's going to say and record. It was presented well. I've got no complaints for this show, and Kristin, keep it up.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, all right. We're just wrapping up now the episode, and we just want to say if you have a show, a podcast that you make or you love, please go to feeddrops.com and click on the Submit Your Show link. We're definitely interested in hearing more shows and getting more submissions. This is really about expanding what we can discover and share out with everybody here. And so we really appreciate all the submissions, and we appreciate all the listeners making it this far. So, Brian, thank you so much for knocking this one out here. And for those of you listening in the podcast, we did this whole thing today live on Bullhorn, and we did a little pre-show, and we're going to do a little post-show Q&A with anyone who shows up. And so that's something we're doing on Wednesdays. So tune into our social media, and you can join the live experience. And then we, chop it all up and turn it into a final podcast for everybody else.
That we do. If you like what we're doing, please follow, share, subscribe, hit us up on social. Do all those things you should be doing for those things you love. And we'll see you next week.
See you next time.